At the beginning of the House of the Dragon, the Targaryens stood at the absolute height of their power, with dragons dominating the skies of Westeros, yet less than a century later, during the events of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, not a single dragon remains alive. The episode centers around the Battle of the Gullet, one of the bloodiest naval battles in Westerosi history, but before the bloodshed begins, it carefully positions every major player on the board. In the Vale, Rhaena Targaryen continues her pursuit of the wild dragon Sheepstealer, a quest that represents far more than simply gaining a dragon. Unlike her sister Baela, whose dragon egg hatched into Moondancer, Rhaena's egg never hatched, leaving her to grow up feeling inadequate in a family where dragons define status, identity, and power. In a major departure from Fire and Blood, the show has Rhaena abandon her responsibility of escorting Rhaenyra's younger sons to safety in Pentos in order to pursue Sheepstealer for herself, effectively combining her storyline with that of Nettles, the dragonseed who originally tamed Sheepstealer in the books by feeding him sheep every day. Rhaena finally achieves the thing she has always wanted, but her success comes at a cost, foreshadowing the larger tragedy of the dance itself. Everyone believes dragons will save them, but dragons are ultimately the very thing destroying House Targaryen. Meanwhile, King's Landing continues to descend into chaos. Prince Aemond, already intoxicated by power after nearly killing his own brother at Rook's Rest, grows increasingly paranoid and orders Grand Maester Orwyle's execution for supposedly helping King Aegon disappear. The real architect behind Aegon's escape is Larys Strong, perhaps the most pragmatic survivor in all of Westeros. Larys has secretly moved his wealth to the Iron Bank of Braavos and intends to keep Aegon alive while allowing Aemond and Rhaenyra to annihilate one another. Once both sides have exhausted themselves, Aegon can return as the rightful king and savior of the realm. It is a cynical plan, but one perfectly suited to a man who values survival above loyalty, honor, or ideology. While Aegon and Larys attempt to flee, Alicent Hightower finds herself trapped by the consequences of decisions she made years ago. Having accepted that Rhaenyra's dragon advantage makes victory nearly impossible, Alicent secretly negotiated a peaceful surrender at the end of Season 2, offering to open King's Landing's gates in exchange for mercy for her daughter Helaena and granddaughter Jaehaera. However, the situation has already changed. Aegon is gone, Aemond has effectively seized control, and Vhagar, the largest dragon alive, remains in the city. The peaceful transfer Alicent envisioned is collapsing before it can even begin. Adding to the sense of inevitable doom is Helaena Targaryen, whose prophetic abilities continue to reveal fragments of the future. She tells Aemond she has seen his death at the God's Eye and that Aegon will eventually return to the throne. Unlike other characters who desperately attempt to shape events, Helaena views the future with tragic acceptance. Her prophecies suggest that the dance is no longer a conflict people control, but rather a disaster that everyone is helplessly moving toward. Elsewhere, Daemon consolidates power in the Riverlands, while the Dragonseeds, Ulf, Hugh, and Adam, prepare for the battles ahead. Their very existence challenges the foundations of Targaryen exceptionalism. For centuries, the Targaryens claimed dragon riding was proof of their divine bloodline, but these bastards and commoners demonstrate that dragons may not belong exclusively to kings and queens at all, but together they represent a threat to the mythology that has sustained Targaryen rule for generations. Adam's relationship with Corlys Velaryon is particularly moving because it highlights a different kind of loss. Corlys can offer ships, titles, and opportunities, but he cannot give Adam back the years of neglect that shaped his life. The emotional distance between father and son mirrors the fractures spreading throughout Westeros itself. Back in King's Landing, Alicent attempts one final manipulation by convincing Aemond to leave the city and confront Daemon at Harrenhal. In order to do so, she gives him the validation he has craved his entire life, admitting that perhaps he should have been king instead of Aegon.
The resulting scene is deeply disturbing because Aemond, emotionally starved and psychologically damaged, misinterprets maternal affection as something romantic. The moment underscores just how broken the Green family has become. No one in King's Landing is healthy anymore. Years of ambition, resentment, and violence have warped every relationship beyond recognition. The Triarchy fleet arrives, seeking vengeance against Jacaerys Velaryon for the devastation he inflicted during the War of the Stepstones. What follows is a spectacular naval conflict filled with burning ships, dragonfire, and chaos. The battle is not simply a clash of armies, but the culmination of decades of grudges and rivalries. At the center of it all stands Jacaerys Velaryon. Throughout the series, Jace has represented the future of Rhaenyra's cause. Intelligent, responsible, and politically capable, he is arguably one of the most promising figures in the entire conflict. In another story, he might have become a great king. During the battle, Vermax is struck and crashes into the sea. Jace survives the initial fall, creating a brief moment of hope, only to be cut down by enemy forces moments later. With his death, Rhaenyra loses not only a son, but also one of her most valuable allies and symbols of the future. The loss is devastating because it demonstrates the true nature of the war. The dance does not reward intelligence, honor, or good intentions. It consumes everyone equally. By the episode's conclusion, the realm stands closer than ever to total catastrophe. Rhaenyra's dream of a bloodless takeover is in jeopardy. Alicent's carefully crafted plan is unraveling. Aemond is riding toward the fate Helaena foresaw, and the dragons continue to tear apart the dynasty they were once meant to protect. What began as a dispute over succession has evolved into something far more tragic: the slow extinction of House Targaryen's greatest strength and the beginning of its long decline. If this episode proves anything, it is that the worst days of the Dance of the Dragons are still ahead.